The necklace was lying open on the pawnshop counter, and inside the medallion was a tiny stamped number I had never seen in 36 years of watching Carolyn wear it. The hinge gave a faint metallic click when the shop owner touched it with a plastic pick. Cold air from the vent brushed the back of my neck, carrying the dry smell of cardboard boxes and metal polish. Under my fingertips, the glass counter felt hard enough to hurt. "You're sure this is my wife's?" I asked. The owner, a broad man named Sam with reading glasses low on his nose, turned the pendant toward me without lifting it from the pad. "You identified the engraving on the back before I opened it, Mr. Holloway. And the woman who brought it in gave the same family name, Holloway. My daughter-in-law's married name. 3 hours earlier, I had been standing in my own bedroom with an empty velvet groove under my thumb. Tiffany, where's Carolyn's necklace?" She had been in my kitchen, dropping ice into a travel cup while my son Kevin leaned against the counter. The cubes cracked loudly. Her coconut perfume hung over the smell of coffee I'd forgotten to finish. Tiffany didn't even put down the cup. "I sold it." Kevin's head came up. "You what?" "I sold the necklace," she repeated. "We needed the money for the vacation." For a second, the refrigerator motor was the only sound in the room. "That wasn't yours to sell," I said. Tiffany pushed the lid onto her cup. "Mark, it's been sitting in a drawer since Carolyn died. October will make 2 years. That's my point." "No, that's a date." Kevin stepped away from the counter. At 35, my son still rubbed his jaw whenever trouble boxed him in. "Dad, nobody's saying Mom didn't matter." I looked at him. "Then tell your wife to bring back her necklace." Tiffany's straw stopped halfway to her mouth. "I can't," she said. "It's gone." That was how I learned Carolyn's necklace had paid for a vacation. My name is Mark Holloway. I'm 63, and I spent more than 3 decades carrying mail around the Harrisburg area before I retired. You learn things doing the same route that long. Which porch board gives, which dog scratches twice before it barks. And you learn when something familiar is wrong. Carolyn's necklace had been hers legally until she died. Her estate went through probate the following year, and the jewelry came to me. Not Kevin, not Tiffany, me. I reminded them of that. Tiffany gave a little shake of her head. "Kevin gave me the key. The key to my house isn't a bill of sale." "I didn't sneak through a window, Mark." Kevin finally looked at her. "I gave you my spare so you could get in when Dad needed something. I didn't tell you to sell Mom's necklace. You said he'd never use any of that stuff. I said he wasn't going to wear it." Tiffany picked up her purse. "Fine. Make me the monster because I turned something collecting dust into something useful." The front door shut hard enough to rattle the framed photograph beside it. Kevin stayed. That almost made it worse. Kevin watched me take out my phone. "Who are you calling?" "The pawn shop." Tiffany had texted him the name after he pressed her for it. The shop was less than 20 minutes away, tucked between a laundromat and a tax office. I called first because I wasn't about to drive across town and discover the necklace had already been shipped somewhere. Sam answered. I described the pendant, Carolyn's initials engraved on the back, and the small dent near the clasp where it had once caught in the door of our old Buick. He asked me to hold. Paper rustled. A drawer slid open. Then his voice changed. "Sir, we have it." My grip tightened around the phone. "I want to buy it back." "We can talk about that when you come in. But there's something else." "What?" "There's a medallion built into the pendant. Did you know it opened?" I sat down at the kitchen table. No. That brought me to the glass counter and the number inside Carolyn's necklace. Sam angled a desk lamp over it. "This isn't a serial number from us. Looks like an inventory mark from whoever appraised or serviced the piece." "Can you tell who?" He studied it again. "Maybe. There's a maker's symbol beside it. I've seen that mark on older estate pieces from a jeweler here in the area." He wrote the name on the back of his business card and slid it toward me. I asked, "Can you check whether you've had anything else with that number?" Sam shook his head. "I can tell you what's in front of me. I can't start handing out other customers' transaction information. Take the mark to the jeweler. If it belongs to their inventory system, they'll know more than I do." That answer irritated me, but it also sounded like the answer of a man who planned to keep his license. I paid what was required to reclaim the necklace and carried it home in a plain paper envelope. The house sounded different when I came back. No Kevin, no Tiffany, just the air conditioner and the soft scrape of the envelope against my palm. Upstairs, Carolyn's jewelry box sat where it had always sat, on the left side of her dresser. I opened it and laid the necklace beside the empty groove. Years earlier, Carolyn had made me drive her to that same jeweler for an appraisal after our insurance agent nagged us about documenting valuables. She'd come home with a folder and said, "The important copies are in the bank box, so don't lose sleep over them." I hadn't thought about that sentence in years. After probate, I remembered the safe deposit box, but I'd had no reason to reopen every old appraisal packet inside it. Now I did. Before touching anything else, I used my phone to photograph the jewelry box exactly as it was. Then I picked up Carolyn's anniversary ring. Wrong. Not dramatically wrong. That was the ugly part. The weight was close. The setting looked right from arm's length. But Carolyn had dropped the real ring on our kitchen tile while taking off a pair of rubber gloves. It left a tiny, flattened nick along one edge. She used to rub that spot with her thumb whenever she was thinking. This ring had no nick. I set it down. The next piece was a gold brooch shaped like two leaves. Carolyn wore it on a navy coat every Christmas Eve for years. I turned it over. The clasp was different. A small sound came from the doorway. "Kevin." I knocked, he said. I hadn't heard him. He looked at the jewelry spread across the dresser. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Checking." "For what?" I held up the ring between us. "Tell me what you see." "Mom's ring. Look again." Kevin took it. His thumb moved around the edge, then stopped. I watched his face, not because I knew what he was thinking, but because the color above his collar changed and he suddenly stopped trying to hand it back. "What?" he asked. "The nick is gone." He stared at the ring. Maybe she had it repaired. "Then why is the clasp wrong on the brooch?" Kevin put the ring down carefully. "Dad, don't start building something out of scratches and clasps." "I'm not building anything." I pulled the old inventory card from the shallow slot beneath the velvet tray. Carolyn had written 12 short entries in blue ink, one for each piece she considered important enough to document separately. I counted what should have been there. Then I counted again. The necklace made 12. 4 pieces were missing completely. 7 were sitting in front of me. But after the ring and the brooch, I no longer trusted what I was looking at. Kevin read the card over my shoulder. Behind us, the air conditioner clicked off, and the bedroom went quiet. I slid the jeweler's business card beside Carolyn's inventory list. "Tomorrow," I said, "I'm taking every one of these pieces in." Kevin's voice dropped. "And if they're real?" I looked at the smooth edge of the anniversary ring where Carolyn's old nick should have been. "Then I owe your wife an apology." I touched the next piece in the box. "And if they're not, I want to know how many times I opened this drawer and looked straight at something that had already been stolen from me. Don't tell me they're fake unless you can prove it." I said that to the jeweler before he had finished unwrapping the first ring. His name was Arthur Bell, and his shop had been on Market Street long enough that Carolyn used to joke the carpet had probably been installed during the Eisenhower administration. A small polishing wheel whined behind the workbench. Metal cleaner and old wood gave the place the same sharp, dusty smell I remembered from years earlier. Arthur looked over his glasses. "Mr. Holloway, I don't call anything fake until I know what I'm looking at." "Good." Kevin had offered to come. I told him no. After what happened in my bedroom, I needed one morning where nobody explained Tiffany to me. Arthur started with the anniversary ring. He weighed it, examined the setting under magnification, then disappeared into the back room. A printer started. Cabinet drawers opened and shut. When he returned, he carried a thin folder. "Your wife had this ring repaired here in 2019, Arthur said. "Prong work. We photographed it for the file." He placed the old photograph beside the ring I had brought. Even without magnification, I saw it. The shoulders of the setting were slightly different. Carolyn's real ring had a tiny repair mark beneath one prong and that flattened nick along the edge. The ring on Arthur's pad had neither. Arthur tapped the photograph. "This is the piece we serviced." Then he touched the ring. "This is not." The words landed quietly. That made them worse. I asked him to keep going. The gold leaf brooch came next. Wrong clasp. Wrong solder points. A bracelet had the correct pattern, but not the repair seam recorded after Carolyn caught it on a grocery cart. Another ring carried stones close in size but not close enough when Arthur compared the old measurements. By the fourth piece, I stopped leaning over the counter. I sat. Arthur worked through everything I had brought while I listened to the scrape of paper and the soft tap of jewelry against the padded tray. Every few minutes, he wrote something down. Finally, he turned the sheet toward me. 7 pieces don't match the items in Carolyn's records. 7. Yes. And the 4 missing ones? I can't tell you where they are. The necklace was back at my house, locked away. Add that to the 4 missing originals and the 7 replacements on Arthur's counter, and every important entry on Carolyn's old card had become a question. Arthur pulled another record from the folder. Her last full appraisal put the group a little over $80,000. My mouth went dry. Tiffany had talked about the necklace like she'd sold an old lamp. I asked, could Carolyn have replaced these herself? Arthur didn't rush his answer. Anything is possible. But if she brought replacements here, I have no record of it. And these aren't random costume pieces. Somebody tried to make them resemble specific jewelry. He turned over the brooch and pointed to a mark so small I had missed it. See that? I bent closer. A tiny stamp sat near the hinge. Arthur said, I know that maker. Custom reproduction shop outside Harrisburg. They do legitimate work. Travel copies, insurance replacements, sentimental reproductions. Nothing wrong with the business. But somebody gave them Carolyn's designs. Or photographs. Measurements. Something. That was the first moment the room seemed too small. Not because 7 pieces were wrong, because 7 wrong pieces required planning. I left Arthur copies of the photographs and asked him to write down exactly what he had found. Before I walked out, he gave me the reproduction shop's name. My phone rang before I reached the parking lot. Tiffany. I let it ring twice before answering. Mark, she said, Kevin says you took the whole jewelry box to some store. I took my property to a jeweler. A car passed behind me, tires humming over hot pavement. Tiffany lowered her voice. Carolyn changed things all the time. She gave things away. She traded things. You weren't standing over her shoulder every minute. No. So maybe don't accuse people because a clasp looks different. 7 pieces look different. Silence. Short. But there. Then Tiffany said, You're grieving over objects. I looked through the shop window at Arthur, writing beside Carolyn's old photograph. I'll call you later. Mark, don't hang up and turn this into something ugly. I ended the call. At home, Kevin's pickup was in my driveway. My fishing boat sat under its cover beside the garage. Kevin had borrowed it twice that summer. The travel trailer was parked farther back, waiting for the Labor Day weekend he'd asked to use it. I had never minded. Carolyn and I raised him to treat family property carefully. Somewhere along the way, carefully had started becoming freely. Kevin was at my kitchen table when I walked in. Tiffany called you, he said. She did. She thinks you're accusing her of stealing everything Mom owned. I haven't accused her of everything. Kevin rubbed his jaw. Dad, I put Arthur's written comparison on the table. 7. His hand stopped. 7 what? 7 pieces in that box are not the pieces your mother owned. Kevin read the first page, then the second. She could have changed some of them. That's what Tiffany said, because it could be true. I slid Carolyn's appraisal photograph across the table. This bracelet was repaired after your mother caught it on a grocery cart. You remember that? Kevin looked at the picture. A small laugh escaped him. But there was no humor in it. She blamed me because I was rushing her. The repair seam is documented. I placed the replacement beside the photograph. No seam. Kevin pushed his chair back an inch. I asked, Did you ever tell Tiffany she could sell your mother's jewelry? No. Did you tell her she could take it? His eyes moved toward the window. That was an answer before he spoke. She said Mom would have wanted somebody to wear some of it. That isn't what I asked. Kevin's fingers tightened around the edge of the appraisal sheet. I might have said there was no point in everything sitting upstairs forever. Might have? Dad, come on. Did you give her permission? It wasn't like that. The refrigerator clicked on behind us. Kevin looked at me and finally said, I told her if there was something she liked, Mom probably would have wanted it used. You didn't own it. I know that. Did you know she was selling anything before the necklace? Kevin stood. I knew she'd gotten rid of one or two things she said nobody wanted. There it was. Not 7, not 4, 1 or 2. Still enough. I folded Arthur's report and put it back in the envelope. Kevin said, What are you going to do? Find out who made the copies. His face tightened. You're going after Tiffany. I'm going after an answer. The reproduction shop answered on my second call. A woman named Denise listened while I explained that I was the legal owner of several pieces that appeared to be copies made by their shop. I gave her the maker's mark and approximate dates from Arthur's comparison. Keyboard keys clicked through the phone. I can't give you customer records just because you ask, Denise said. I understand. But if you send photographs and proof of ownership, I can check whether the designs match work we performed. Older orders are archived off the main system, so it may take a little time. I emailed what she requested while Kevin stood at the sink, staring into the backyard. Before sending, I looked at the 7 photographs one more time. 7 copies meant 7 decisions. Someone had selected the originals, arranged reproductions, brought the copies back, and counted on me seeing familiar shapes instead of familiar details. I pressed send. Less than an hour later, Denise called back. I found enough to tell you we did make multiple pieces matching the photographs you sent. Kevin turned when he heard me say, multiple? Denise continued. The detailed order forms are archived. I've requested them. I should be able to confirm more once I have those. Can you tell me who ordered them? Not yet. I closed my eyes for a second. Then Denise added, Mr. Holloway, these weren't standard catalog items. Whoever placed the orders wanted specific copies. I looked toward the hallway leading upstairs. For more than a year, I had walked past Carolyn's dresser without questioning what sat inside it. Now I knew 7 pieces had been made to fool a glance. What I still didn't know was whose name sat on those order forms. It wasn't Kevin. Denise said it before I had a chance to sit down. I was back at the reproduction shop 2 days after our first call, standing across from a glass case filled with travel copies, anniversary duplicates, and replacement earrings. A small fan rattled behind the office door. The place smelled faintly of hot metal and lemon cleaner. Denise had printed several archived summaries and kept them face down until she finished checking my identification and the ownership records I had brought. You showed me a picture of your son, she said. The man who came in with the woman wasn't him. You're certain? Certain enough to tell you it wasn't the man in that photograph. For almost 48 hours, I had tried not to build an answer before I had one. Still, some part of me had prepared for Kevin's name. Now that answer was gone. Denise turned over the first page. It wasn't a receipt with a confession attached. It was an order summary, item description, approximate measurements, requested finish, notes about matching photographs supplied by the customer. There were several orders, spread out over time. Can I see the customer name? I asked. Not yet. Our owner is reviewing the records because you're claiming the copies were used to replace property belonging to you. I can confirm the work matches. Anything beyond that may require counsel or a formal request. I pointed to the notes. Do you remember the woman? I remember the job more than the customer. Multiple custom reproductions tend to stick out. And the man? Older than your son, dark hair, taller. He handled some of the photographs. A picture formed in my head before I wanted it to. Brent Walsh. Tiffany's brother was 41, 6 years older than Kevin. I had seen him at birthdays, cookouts, and one miserable Thanksgiving, where he spent most of dinner talking about margins on estate sale furniture. I found a picture from Mia's birthday and held out my phone. Denise looked at it. That's him. Her finger stopped over Brent. Kevin, not being the man at the shop, removed one kind of betrayal and replaced it with something wider. Did he place the orders? I asked. I didn't say that, but he was here. Yes, that distinction mattered. Before I left, Denise slid the order summaries into a folder and told me she would keep the archived packet flagged while the owner reviewed what could properly be released. I wrote down her name, the date, and exactly what she had confirmed. Old habits. On my mail route, if something mattered, you wrote it down before memory started polishing the edges. Outside, the August heat pressed against my shirt. Traffic rolled by in a steady hiss, and somebody nearby had cut grass recently. I stood beside my truck and searched Brent's business. Walsh Estate Resale. I already knew it existed. I had never cared enough to look closely. The website was plain. Furniture, jewelry, tools, collectibles, estate cleanouts. Brent's name appeared as owner. Then I found archived sale listings. Dining sets, lamps, china, old watches, boxes of costume jewelry. Then I stopped. A gold leaf brooch sat near the edge of a velvet display tray. The photograph was not sharp enough to prove anything. But the leaf shape, the raised vein down the center, the angle of the stem, I knew that brooch, or something that looked exactly like it. The listing was from the previous fall. I saved the page. Several months later, another archived sale showed a bracelet with the same alternating link pattern as one of Carolyn's documented pieces. Again, not proof, but two photographs were harder to dismiss than one. Kevin called while I was still in the truck. "Dad, where are you?" "Outside Harrisburg. Tiffany says you went to that copy place." "I did." "You could have told me." "Why?" "Because this is my family too." I looked at Brent's business page. "That's exactly what I'm trying to figure out." Kevin's voice sharpened. "What does that mean?" "The man who went to the reproduction shop with Tiffany wasn't you." Silence. "Then, who was it?" "Brent." A truck downshifted on the road beside me. "My brother-in-law?" "Yes." "That doesn't prove anything." "No. Brent sells estate stuff. Tiffany could have asked where to get copies made." "She could have." "You hear yourself, right?" Every answer becomes another reason to suspect her. I stared at the archived brooch. "Kevin, if the copies were innocent, why were they sitting in your mother's jewelry box where the originals used to be?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" His voice dropped. "I'm saying you've already decided what happened." "No, I've decided I'm done guessing." Kevin ended the call first. At home, I printed the sale pages and laid them beside Carolyn's appraisal photographs. The resemblance was close enough to make my stomach tighten, but I forced myself to slow down. Same shape wasn't identity. Same pattern wasn't ownership. I had spent 36 years delivering mail to people who swore an envelope had never arrived, only to find it under a newspaper on their own counter. Being certain was not the same as being right. So I started with dates. The brooch listing appeared on a Sunday in late September. I opened the calendar on my phone and scrolled back. That weekend, Kevin and Tiffany had taken Mia away. I remembered because Kevin had asked to borrow my travel trailer, then changed plans at the last minute. They told me they were visiting relatives. Brent was family. That alone proved nothing. The second archived listing had a different date. Another weekend trip. Another time Kevin had told me they would be away. I wrote both dates on a yellow pad and called Arthur Bell. "Can you compare an online photograph to Carolyn's appraisal?" Arthur sighed. "I can tell you whether it looks similar. I can't authenticate jewelry from a website picture. That's all I'm asking." I emailed the first image. 10 minutes later, he called. "It's consistent with the design. Same orientation. Same general proportions. But Mark, that is not identification." "I know. Do you?" I looked at the page. "Yes." After we hung up, I searched deeper into Brent's archived sales. Then I found a second photograph of the brooch. This one showed the back. A paper tag hung from the clasp. Walsh Estate Resale. Under it was a handwritten inventory code. The code meant nothing to me. The date did. It matched the same weekend Tiffany had told me she and Kevin were driving north to see her aunt. I called Kevin. He answered with a tired, "What now?" "Last September. The weekend you went to visit Tiffany's aunt." "What about it?" "Did you?" A pause. "We went away." "That wasn't my question." "Dad, did you visit her aunt?" His breathing changed. I don't remember. That was the first answer from him that sounded less like defense and more like caution. I put the phone on speaker and looked at the sale page. Brent listed something that looks like your mother's brooch that weekend. Another piece appears in a different sale months later. Kevin said nothing. Finally, he said, "You need to stop calling me like I'm being questioned. Then give me something I don't have to question." I told you what I knew. One or two things. That's what Tiffany told me. There it was. Not what he saw. What Tiffany told him. Kevin ended the call again. I stayed at the table until the sunlight moved off Carolyn's appraisal photographs. Brent at the reproduction shop. 2 resale images. 2 dates that lined up with weekends Tiffany had arranged to be away. None of it told me whether Brent knew where the originals came from. None of it told me how much Kevin knew. But it told me something I hadn't known that morning. Tiffany had not walked into that shop alone. I searched one more page in Brent's archive. Near the bottom of an older listing, half hidden behind a silver tray, was another piece shaped exactly like one of Carolyn's missing originals. Different date. Same business. I printed the page and wrote Brent Walsh across the top. Not thief, not yet. Just the first name outside my house that had appeared twice where Carolyn's jewelry should not have been. That was enough for one day. "Give me the spare key." Kevin looked at me as if I had asked for something larger than a piece of brass. We were standing in my front hall the morning after I printed Brent's 3rd sale listing. The locksmith had already replaced the deadbolt on the back door and was kneeling beside the kitchen entrance with a screwdriver between his teeth. Metal clicked against metal. Fine brass dust had gathered on the floor beside his tool bag. Kevin stared past me at the open lock. "You changed them?" "I'm changing them." "Dad, seriously?" "Give me the key." His jaw worked once. Then he reached into his pocket, pulled out a ring of keys, and removed the one with the faded blue cap. The key landed in my palm with almost no weight. That bothered me more than it should have. For years, Kevin had carried a spare because Carolyn and I trusted him. After she died, I never asked for it back. He checked the furnace when I was away, picked up packages, let himself in if I didn't hear the bell. Somewhere between those ordinary favors and Tiffany selling Carolyn's necklace, access had turned into something else. I closed my fingers around the key. "Did you give this to her?" Kevin rubbed the back of his neck. "She used mine." "That wasn't my question." "Dad, come on. Did you know she was coming into my house?" "Yes." The locksmith stood and tested the deadbolt. Neither of us spoke until he moved to the next door. Kevin lowered his voice. "Tiffany came over when you needed groceries. She checked on you. Sometimes she grabbed things for Mia. I didn't think I needed to clear every visit with you." "Did you tell her she could take your mother's jewelry?" "No." "Did you tell her she could sell it?" "No." "Did you tell her any of it belonged to you?" His eyes dropped to the key in my hand. "I told her Mom probably would have wanted some of it used." "That's not ownership." "I know." "Do you?" That one landed. Kevin stepped back. "I never said she could sell 7 pieces. I never said she could make copies. I never said she could put fake jewelry back in the box. But you knew she had taken something." He didn't answer. I pulled the anniversary ring from the padded envelope in my pocket and placed it on the console table beside us. "You saw this before?" Kevin picked it up. The smooth edge caught the light from the front window. "I've seen Mom's ring 1,000 times. This isn't your mother's ring. I know that now. Did you ever see Tiffany wearing the real one?" His thumb stopped moving. A car rolled past outside. The tires made a wet whisper over the pavement, where somebody's sprinkler had reached the street. Kevin said, "Once." "When?" "Last summer." "Maybe. Before the first sale listing?" He looked at me. "I don't know." "Try." Kevin let out a breath. "She wore it to dinner. I asked why she had Mom's ring. Tiffany said she was trying it on because Mom would have wanted somebody to enjoy it." "And that was enough?" His shoulders rose, then fell. "I told her not to lose it." I looked at him. "That was all. Not don't take it. Not ask Dad. Don't lose it." Kevin put the replica down. "I know how that sounds." "No, I know what it allowed." The front door opened without a knock. Tiffany stopped when she saw the locksmith. Her eyes moved from the new deadbolt to to the key in my hand. You changed the locks? Yes. She looked at Kevin. You let him do this? Kevin's voice tightened. It's his house. Tiffany gave a short laugh. Oh, now it's his house. I turned toward her. What does that mean? Nothing. Say it. Tiffany set her purse on the table. Her perfume reached me before she did. It means Kevin had a key. We've helped you for 2 years. We've picked up groceries, watched the place, brought Mia over, checked the mail when you were gone. Nobody was sneaking around. I pointed toward the anniversary ring. Did I give you permission to take that? She didn't look at it. Kevin told me Carolyn would have wanted someone to use her things. Did I give you permission? You weren't using any of it. That wasn't my question. Her mouth thinned. You're acting like I broke into a museum. No. You walked into my house with my son's key. Kevin flinched slightly. Tiffany turned on him. Are you just going to stand there? He looked at the ring. Did you make copies? Her face changed by half an inch. Not enough for anybody to call it shock. Enough for me to notice. What are you talking about? Tiffany asked. Kevin picked up the replica. This. She glanced at it. How am I supposed to know what that is? You wore Mom's real ring last summer. So? And now, this is in her box. Tiffany folded her arms. Maybe Carolyn had copies made. I took Arthur Bell's written comparison from the hall table. No record of it. Then maybe she used another jeweler. 7 times? Tiffany looked at me. You've decided I'm guilty already. No. I tapped the report. I've decided 7 things in Carolyn's box aren't Carolyn's. Kevin stepped between us before either of us moved closer. Tiffany, did you sell more than the necklace? She looked at him for a long second. Then she said, I sold things you said nobody cared about. Kevin's face went still. I never said nobody cared. You said your dad would never use them. That is not the same thing. For crying out loud, Kevin. You told me your mother would have wanted us to have some of it. Some. Tiffany's voice sharpened. Now you're counting words because your father wants someone to blame. I said, you keep saying Kevin gave you permission. He couldn't. She turned toward me. He's Carolyn's son. And I'm the legal owner. That stopped her. Just for a moment. Then Tiffany picked up her purse. You know what? Keep your locks. Keep the box. Keep every dusty thing in this house, exactly where Carolyn left it, Kevin said. Tiff. She walked out. The new deadbolt clicked behind her. Kevin stood with both hands on the back of a chair. I knew about 1 or 2 sales, he said. You told me. I thought she was using the money for bills. What bills? Credit cards. Mia's programs. The vacation deposit. Stuff like that. Did you see where the money went? No. Did you ask? His fingers tightened on the chair. No. I let that sit. Kevin wasn't a child. He was 35 years old. He supervised people for a living. He knew how to read a statement and ask why numbers didn't match. He just hadn't wanted to. That was different from not knowing. My phone buzzed on the console table. An email. Not from Denise. From Kevin. He looked confused. I sent you that last night, he said. I opened it. Attached was a scanned document from a folder Tiffany kept with their household papers. What am I looking at? Kevin came closer. She had me sign something months ago. Said it was for a family investment Brent was putting together. The page was mostly ordinary language. Acknowledgement. Consent to transfer funds from a joint household account. Reference to an investment pool. Then, I saw the company name. Walsh Lake Holdings, LLC. I read it twice. How much did you transfer? Kevin looked at the floor. 10,000. Into Brent's company? That's what this says. You didn't know? Tiffany said it was temporary. She said Brent had an opportunity and we'd get a share. I scrolled farther. There was a transaction reference. The date was 3 weeks after one of Brent's archived jewelry sales. Too close to ignore. Not close enough to prove anything. I looked at Kevin. Do you own any part of this company? I thought we did. That wasn't my question. He reached for the document and scanned the page again. Then he stopped. His eyes moved line by line toward the ownership section. Kevin's voice dropped. My name isn't here. I looked at the same blank space where his ownership interest should have been. No. He read it again. Then once more. Finally, he looked up at me. If this was our investment, why did she have me sign for the money but leave me off the company? You signed away $10,000, but you never got a single page saying what you owned. Kevin sat across from me at my kitchen table with both hands around a mug he hadn't touched. The document from Walsh Lake Holdings lay between us. Morning traffic murmured beyond the front windows. Somewhere in the house, the new deadbolt settled with a small metal tick as the air conditioner came on. Kevin looked at the ownership section again. I thought Tiffany had the rest of the paperwork. You thought, Dad. I know how it sounds. I slid the page back toward him. Then stop telling me how it sounds, and tell me what happened. He leaned back. Tiffany said Brent had a property opportunity, something under market. She said if we moved $10,000 from the joint account, we'd have a share when he bought it. Did you ask what property? She said it wasn't final. Did you ask what percentage you owned? Kevin stared at the coffee. No. That answer was becoming familiar. We spent the next hour going through files he could legally access, from his own email, bank account, and shared household records. No secret passwords, no digging through Tiffany's phone. I wanted facts I could explain later, without having to explain how I got them. The $10,000 transfer had gone from Kevin and Tiffany's joint checking account to an account referenced in paperwork for Walsh Lake Holdings. A second document described it as an investment contribution. Nothing described Kevin as a member of the company. Nothing promised him shares. Nothing even used the word owner next to his name. Kevin finally pushed his mug away. I need to call Brent. Call him. He put the phone on speaker. Brent answered after 3 rings. Kev, what's up? Kevin's voice sounded flatter than usual. Walsh Lake Holdings. What do I own? A pause. Come again? I put 10 grand into it. What percentage do I own? Brent gave a short laugh. Man, don't start talking like an accountant. It's a family deal. Then answer the question. Another pause. Brent's tone changed. Is Mark there? Kevin looked at me. Yes. That explains it. I said. Good morning, Brent. He ignored that. Kevin repeated. What do I own? Brent exhaled into the phone. Your money went into the project pool. Nobody said you were buying membership units. Kevin's fingers curled against the table. Tiffany said we were investing. You are benefiting from the investment. How? When the place closes, everybody gets to use it. What place? Silence. Kevin leaned closer to the phone. What place, Brent? A cabin. The refrigerator motor hummed behind us. Kevin asked, What cabin? Brent sounded irritated now, as if the problem was the question. Lake property. Foreclosure. Needs work, but it's a good buy. Where? Brent gave him the county and a lake name about 2 hours from Harrisburg. I wrote them down. Then I asked, How much? Mr. Holloway, this really isn't your business. If money from Carolyn's jewelry went into it, it becomes my business. The line went quiet. When Brent spoke again, every word was measured. Tiffany brought me family items nobody wanted. I run a resale business. I sold inventory. Those proceeds became business funds. Who owned the jewelry? Tiffany said it was family property. That wasn't my question. Brent let out a dry laugh. I'm not doing this with you. The call ended. Kevin stared at the phone. He didn't deny the cabin. No. He didn't say I owned any of it either. No. By noon, Kevin had found the property through public real estate records. The cabin sat above a narrow Pennsylvania lake behind a line of pines, 2 stories of weathered siding with a deck leaning slightly toward the water. The listing price was about $235,000. Bank owned. Sold as is. Kevin scrolled. Under contract. Buyer? Doesn't show here. But a copy of a draft investment summary attached to an old email did. Walsh Lake Holdings. Kevin read the company name twice. So this is it. I looked at the photographs. Carolyn would have hated the deck railing. She checked every loose board in our house as if gravity had a personal grudge against us. Kevin scrolled farther. There's an estimated $50,000 needed for down payment and closing funds. Where was Brent getting that? Some from his business. Some from Tiffany, apparently. Some from me. He said the last part quietly. A car door slammed outside. Tiffany came in without using the old key. She knocked this time, then opened the door when Kevin told her to come in. Her gaze moved to the laptop. You found it. Kevin stood. The cabin? Tiffany set her purse down. I was going to tell you. When? When it was ready. You told me I was investing. You were. In what? In this. Kevin turned the laptop toward her. My name isn't anywhere. Tiffany glanced at the screen. Because Brent's LLC is buying it. That's not what I asked. Her eyes flicked toward me. I recognize that look now. Not panic. Calculation. Tiffany said. The cabin was supposed to be for all of us. You, me, Mia. Your dad if he wanted to come. Brent handles the company because he knows resale and property work. Kevin laughed once. A hard sound. You moved $10,000 out of our account for a cabin owned by your brother. We would use it. Use it? You borrow your dad's boat. You borrow his trailer. Families share things. There it was again. Use had become ownership's cheaper cousin. I said, my name is on the title to the boat. Tiffany turned toward me. This isn't about your boat. No, it's about whether using something makes it yours. Her mouth tightened. Kevin stepped closer to the table. How much of Mom's jewelry went into this? Tiffany looked at him. I don't know. You sold it. Not all of it went to the cabin. How much? Some went to bills. What bills? Our bills, Kevin. The ones you somehow don't notice until they're due. That doesn't answer me. Tiffany folded her arms. The vacation deposit. Credit cards. Mia's programs. The replicas cost money too. The room went still. Kevin's head lifted. What replicas? Tiffany's eyes moved to me. Too late. She had said it herself. I didn't speak. Kevin did. You just said the replicas cost money. Tiffany pressed her lips together. Then she reached for her purse. Fine. Yes. I had copies made because I knew your father would lose his mind if something disappeared. I said. So you replaced them before selling the originals. I replaced things so he wouldn't obsess over a box he never opened. Kevin stared at her. You planned this. Tiffany looked at him as though that were unfair. I managed it. That word sat on the table between us. Managed. Not stole. Not hid. Managed. Kevin turned back to the laptop. I opened the chronology I had built from Arthur's appraisal dates, Brent's archived listings, and the transactions Kevin could see. We still could not tie every dollar to every piece. I wasn't going to pretend otherwise. But the pattern was getting harder to ignore. Several jewelry sales appeared before deposits connected to Brent's business and the LLC funding period. The amounts did not match neatly. Resale lots had been mixed. Money had moved through more than one account. Still, the rough total connected to jewelry-related sales looked close to $30,000. Kevin traced one line with his finger. This deposit was 4 days after Brent listed Mom's bracelet. I said, maybe related, maybe not. We need records. Another sale. Another deposit. Not proof yet. A map. Tiffany watched us. You two are making spreadsheets like I robbed a bank. Kevin looked up. You sold my mother's jewelry, replaced it with copies, sent the originals through Brent, and put money into a cabin I don't own. You were going to use the cabin. That's your answer? It was for our family. Kevin turned the screen toward her and pointed to the company filing. Then show me where our family is on this. Tiffany didn't look. Brent's name appeared as the controlling member. Not Kevin's, not Tiffany's, not Mia's. Kevin's chair scraped backward. When were you going to tell me? Tiffany picked up her purse. When it was safe. Kevin stopped. Safe? From what? She opened the front door. That's exactly why I didn't tell you yet. Then she left. The new lock clicked behind her. Kevin kept staring at the closed door. I looked down at the money trail, then at Brent's company name. Tiffany had not spent Carolyn's jewelry and moved on. She had been turning it into something else. And whatever safe meant, she believed the cabin needed protection from someone before Kevin was allowed to know it existed. "Is your dad forgetting things?" Kevin's aunt asked him that on speakerphone while I was standing 6 feet away. Her voice came through thin and careful from the kitchen counter. Kevin had stopped by after work, still wearing his company polo, and I was sorting copies of appraisal photographs into envelopes. The air conditioner pushed cold air across the room. Paper rasped under my fingertips. Kevin looked at me before answering. "Why are you asking that, Aunt Linda?" "Well," Tiffany called me. Of course she had. Linda cleared her throat. She said Mark's been going through Carolyn's jewelry over and over, comparing scratches, calling stores. She said he thinks things were stolen. Kevin pinched the bridge of his nose. "They were." A pause. "What?" "Some of Mom's jewelry was replaced with copies." Linda's voice changed. "Are you sure?" Kevin looked at the papers spread across my table. "Yes, that should have ended it." "It didn't." "Well," she said. "Tiffany mentioned Mark has forgotten appointments since Carolyn passed. She's worried he's getting mixed up." I closed the envelope in my hand. One dentist appointment. That was true. I had also driven halfway to the grocery store, one Tuesday, before realizing I had already gone the day before. For a few months after Carolyn died, I sometimes walked into a room and stood there with no idea why I had entered it. None of that turned brass into gold. But Tiffany had chosen real mistakes. That was smarter than inventing fake ones. Kevin said, "Dad's fine." "I'm not saying he isn't. I'm only saying grief does things." I spoke loud enough for the phone to catch me. "Linda, if you want to ask whether I'm losing my memory, ask me." The line went quiet. Then Linda said, "Mark, I didn't mean it like that." "How did you mean it?" "I'm worried." "About me?" "Yes." "Then call me next time." Kevin ended the conversation a minute later. He stood beside the counter with both hands flat against it. "She's calling everybody." "Probably." "You don't seem surprised." I slid Arthur Bell's report into the envelope. "People who can't change the records sometimes try to change who gets believed." Kevin looked toward the hallway. "What are you doing now?" "Finding records I haven't looked at yet." He frowned. "What records?" "The bank box." That got his attention. Carolyn had mentioned it years ago, and after probate, I had dealt with the safe deposit box mostly as paperwork, insurance files, property documents, old certificates. I had taken what the estate attorney needed and left several labeled packets inside because there had been no reason to drag every paper home, until now. I still had the access documents from probate. Before going to the bank, though, I wanted to know what I was looking for. That led me back to Carolyn's jewelry box. Not the expensive pieces. The cheap charm bracelet. It was the kind of thing nobody would bother stealing. Silver-colored links, small charms collected over decades. A tiny house. A school bus. A dog. A mailbox. Carolyn used to hide notes in ridiculous places. Once, before a road trip, she tucked a gas station loyalty card inside the little suitcase charm because, as she put it, "If I leave it in my purse, I'll lose it." I turned the mailbox charm over. There was a seam. Kevin leaned closer. "You think there's something in there?" "I think your mother enjoyed making simple things complicated." A thumbnail opened the tiny back panel. Inside was a narrow strip of folded paper. The paper made a dry crackle when I eased it free. 2 letters, 4 numbers, then a short word, "box." Kevin exhaled. "You knew she did this?" "I knew she hid reminders. I didn't know this one existed." The number matched a reference line in old probate paperwork I still had filed upstairs. That was enough. The bank manager checked my identification and estate documents before letting me access the box. No shortcuts. No whispered favor because I was a widower. I signed where she told me to sign, and waited while a clerk disappeared behind a secured door. The box itself was heavier than I remembered. Metal dragged softly against the table when I pulled it toward me. Kevin had gone back to work, So I was alone. Good. I lifted the lid. No cash. No secret account. No surprise fortune waiting because Carolyn had somehow predicted everything. Folders, photographs, insurance schedules, receipts, repair slips, paper. I sat there for almost an hour. Carolyn had documented the jewelry better than I had understood. The anniversary ring photograph showed the flattened nick I remembered and the exact repair beneath the prong. The gold brooch had close photographs of both hinges. A bracelet record included the tiny solder line Arthur had already identified. Every document tightened something we already knew. These were Carolyn's originals. The pieces in my box were not. What the bank records could not tell me was who had removed the originals. That mattered. I kept reminding myself. Proof of what something was did not prove who took it. Near the bottom of the packet, I found a stack of index cards in Carolyn's handwriting. At first, I thought they were inventory notes. They weren't. Each card named a piece, and, underneath, a person. Not legal language, nothing signed as a will. Just Carolyn thinking ahead in blue ink. Emerald earrings. Mia, when she's old enough. Her mother's small gold cross. Kevin. The leaf brooch. No name yet. I kept reading. Then one card stopped me. Sapphire pin. Tiffany. Underneath that, Carolyn had written one more sentence. For her, when she stops thinking, she has to impress everybody. I read it twice. The bank's fluorescent lights buzzed above me. For almost 2 weeks, Tiffany had talked about Carolyn's jewelry, as if the dead could not care, and the living had already divided the spoils. But Carolyn had thought about her. Specifically, not as Kevin's wife. As Tiffany, I put the card down. A receipt in the same packet showed the sapphire pin had been appraised and photographed. Oval blue center stone. Small diamond border. A repair to the clasp. I knew the piece. Carolyn wore it to Kevin and Tiffany's rehearsal dinner. I opened the folder on my phone containing Brent's archived sale images. First listing, second, then one of the earliest photographs I had saved. My finger stopped. There it was. Not perfectly clear, but the shape matched. Blue center, pale border, same proportions. The sale date was only weeks after Tiffany had started using Kevin's key regularly. I sat back. The strange part was not that Tiffany might have sold the pin. By then, nothing about that surprised me. The strange part was that she had apparently sold the one piece Carolyn had once imagined giving her willingly. I photographed the index card, the appraisal, the receipt, and the insurance schedule. Then I put everything back in the same order. Before closing the box, I checked the packet labels twice and compared them with the probate reference sheet. No missing page. No mystery envelope tucked behind the folders. Just the paper trail Carolyn had already built while she was alive. The bank manager met me outside the secured area. "Find what you needed, Mr. Holloway." I found what my wife kept. She nodded politely, not asking more. In the parking lot, my phone showed 3 missed calls. 1 from Kevin, 2 from Tiffany. I called Kevin first. "What happened?" he asked. "The bank records are good." "How good?" "They identify the originals. Photos, repairs, insurance records." "So that proves Tiffany took them?" "No." Silence. Then Kevin said, "Right. It proves what belonged to your mother, and later to me. We still need the other half. Which is, who ordered the copies? Who sold each original? Where the money moved?" Kevin sighed. "And Mom left all that in the box?" "No." I looked at the photograph of Carolyn's handwritten card on my phone. There was one thing I wasn't ready to tell him yet. Not because it changed ownership. It didn't. Not because it proved theft. It didn't. But because Tiffany would turn almost anything into permission if you handed it to her too early. Kevin asked, "Dad? I'm here. Was there anything else?" I looked at Carolyn's words again. Tiffany. For her, when she stops thinking, she has to impress everybody. "Yes," I said. "What?" "Something your mother meant for later." Kevin waited. I closed the image. Later isn't here yet. We need to talk about whether Mark should still be handling everything alone. Tiffany said it at my dining table, as if I weren't sitting 3 feet away. Linda was there. So was Kevin. Brent had joined by phone because, according to Tiffany, he was in the middle of a pickup. I could hear a truck engine idling behind his voice. Coffee cooled in untouched mugs. The overhead fan clicked every fourth turn. Tiffany folded her hands. I'm not attacking anyone. I'm worried. I looked at her. Then worry about me while looking at me. Linda shifted in her chair. Mark, nobody's trying to embarrass you. Good. That saves time. Tiffany's mouth tightened, but her voice stayed soft. You missed a dentist appointment. Yes. You drove to the grocery store twice in 2 days. Yes. And Kevin told me you've been spending hours comparing tiny scratches on jewelry. Kevin turned toward her. I told you Dad found copies. That's not the same thing. Tiffany ignored him. She slid a sheet of paper across the table. It wasn't a medical form. It was a list. Appointments. Dates. Things I had forgotten after Carolyn died. A late property tax reminder I had paid before any penalty. A morning I left the sprinkler running too long. The dentist appointment. Small truths. Neatly arranged. I ran my finger down the page. Anything on here say 7 pieces of jewelry changed metal, repair marks, and measurements? No, Tiffany said. It says you've been under strain. Arthur Bell's comparison report sat beside me. I placed it on top of her list. This says 7 pieces in Carolyn's box do not match the originals documented before she died. Linda leaned forward. 7? Yes, Tiffany said. Copies aren't proof I stole anything. No, that answer surprised her. I continued. The appraisal records prove what the originals looked like. The bank records prove what belonged to Carolyn and later to me. They do not, by themselves, prove who removed them. Brent's voice came through Kevin's phone. Finally, something reasonable. I looked toward the speaker. Don't get comfortable. Kevin almost smiled. Almost. Tiffany crossed her arms. You see? Even Mark knows this has gotten out of hand. No, I said. I know the difference between suspicion and proof. Linda picked up one appraisal photograph. So where did the copies come from? A reproduction shop outside Harrisburg made them. Tiffany's eyes moved toward Kevin. He said, Dad has confirmation. Brent cut in. That still doesn't make them stolen. Correct, I said. Another pause. The room changed slightly when I agreed with him. People expect anger to be careless. Calm makes them listen longer. Tiffany leaned back. Then maybe we stop tearing the family apart until you have actual evidence. I asked, Did Kevin have authority to give you my jewelry? Her jaw shifted. He had a key. That wasn't the question. He's Carolyn's son, and I'm the owner. Linda looked between us. Kevin spoke before Tiffany could. I gave her access. I did not own the jewelry. Tiffany turned toward him. Kevin. No. Dad's right about that part. Her voice lowered. We talked about helping with his finances because he was overwhelmed. Kevin's face changed. What? I said, maybe you should help more. That's not some conspiracy. You told Aunt Linda I shouldn't be handling things alone, I said. Tiffany looked at me. Because maybe you shouldn't. Kevin pushed his chair back. No. She stared at him. No what? I'm not taking over Dad's finances. Nobody said take over. You just said he shouldn't handle things alone. That means help. He didn't ask for help. Tiffany's fingers flattened against the table. You're choosing a very strange time to act protective. Kevin looked at her. I'm choosing a very strange time to stop assuming you mean what you say. Nobody spoke for several seconds. Brent broke the silence. Since we're all sharing, I can send the resale records. I turned toward the phone. Send what you have. You're going to be disappointed. Try me. Within minutes, Kevin's email chimed. Brent had sent several business summaries. Lot numbers, sale totals, purchase and consignment notes. Nothing dramatic. That was the problem. Carolyn's jewelry did not appear as 12 neat lines. Pieces were mixed into lots with watches, costume jewelry, estate items, and loose stones. Some descriptions were broad enough to fit hundreds of pieces. Gold pin, lady's bracelet, blue stone brooch. Resale proceeds had been grouped with other sales before deposits. Kevin scrolled through the pages. This is useless. Not useless, I said. Brent laughed through the phone. Looks pretty useless to me. I ignored him. The records showed that Brent's business had moved jewelry during the same periods we were examining, but they blurred identity instead of sharpening it. Arthur's photographs could prove what Carolyn owned. The bank packet could prove provenance. Public listings could show pieces that looked similar. None of that gave me a clean line from my jewelry box to Brent's deposit account for every item. Tiffany saw the same gap. So now what? I looked at the papers. Now I stopped pretending a pile of records is the same thing as a chain. Linda asked. What does that mean? It means every step has to connect to the next one. Tiffany gave a tired sigh. Mark, listen to yourself. I am. Her chair scraped back. This is what I'm talking about. You're making charts. You're calling businesses. You're treating family like suspects, Kevin said. Maybe families shouldn't sell things that aren't theirs. Tiffany turned on him. You knew I sold things. One or two. You keep hiding behind that. I'm not hiding. You gave me the key. I gave you access to the house. You said Mom would have wanted us to use things. I did not say replace them. Brent's voice came through sharper now. This is going nowhere, I said. Then answer one question. What? When Tiffany brought jewelry to you, did you know I owned it? Brent didn't answer immediately. Then, she told me it was family property. That wasn't my question. You keep saying that like it's magic. No. I keep saying it because nobody answers the first one. The truck engine behind him revved. I have work to do. The call disconnected. Tiffany picked up her purse. You can keep doing this, Mark, but eventually people are going to notice what it's doing to you. I slid her list of my forgotten appointments back across the table. Take this with you. She didn't. Kevin did. He folded it once and handed it to her. My dad forgetting a dentist appointment doesn't explain Mom's ring. Tiffany looked at him for a long moment. Then she left. Linda stayed another 10 minutes. She asked quieter questions after that. Before leaving, she touched Arthur's report and said, I wish Tiffany had shown me this before she called. She didn't have it, I said. Linda nodded once. That difference mattered too. When everyone was gone, I spread the records across the table. The weakness was obvious now. We could prove the originals. We could prove the copies. We could show resale activity. But the middle still had holes. Who ordered each copy? When? How was it paid for? Did those dates come before the originals appeared in Brent's sales? Without that, Tiffany could keep saying coincidence, permission, family property, memory. My phone rang just before 6. Denise. I've got news, she said. I stood up. What kind? The owner finished reviewing the archived materials connected to the reproductions you asked about. We found the full order packet. Paper moved on her end. Dates. Model descriptions. Reference photographs. Payment information. My grip tightened around the phone. Whose name? Denise paused. I can't give you the purchaser over the phone yet. The owner wants to handle that properly because of the dispute. I looked at the empty chair Tiffany had used. But you know who paid? Yes. Was it Tiffany? Another pause. No. The fan above my dining table clicked on its fourth turn. Once. Twice. I asked. Can you tell me anything else? Only this. The payment source belongs to someone you know. Then Denise said she would call when the packet was ready for the next step. The line went dead. I stared at Carolyn's photographs. Not Tiffany. Someone I knew. And for the first time since this started, the missing link did not point farther away from my family. It pointed back inside it. The card was mine. Kevin said it before I could. Denise had finally released the payment portion of the archived reproduction order packet after the shop owner reviewed my ownership documents and the dispute. I had printed the pages at home and spread them across the dining table beside Arthur Bell's appraisals. The first 4 digits meant nothing to me. Kevin recognized the last 4. He sat down slowly. That was my card. I looked at him. You paid for the copies? His chair creaked under his weight. I paid for something. That isn't the same answer. Kevin pressed both hands against his forehead. Tiffany told me she wanted cheaper versions of a few pieces so she could wear them when we traveled. She said if anything happened, Mom's originals would stay safe. I slid the order sheet toward him. This says 7 custom reproductions. I didn't know there were 7. You paid 7 charges. Not at once. That was true. The packet showed separate orders over many months. Small charges compared with the value of the originals. Easy to ignore if you were not looking for a pattern. Kevin stared at one line. I thought this was jewelry. It was jewelry. You know what I mean. I did. He had seen charges from a jewelry reproduction business and accepted Tiffany's explanation because the explanation was comfortable. I asked, did you ever see the copies when they arrived? Maybe one. Which one? The anniversary ring. My hand stopped on the page. What did she tell you? That she wanted something that looked like Mom's, without risking the real one. And where did you think the real one was? Kevin's mouth opened, then closed. In the box. I leaned back. That was the point. He looked at me. What? You thought the original was safe because you saw a copy and assumed the real one was still upstairs. His face changed. Not dramatically, just enough. Kevin reached for the order packet again and read the dates. Jesus. Don't skip ahead. I'm not. Yes, you are. Start with the first order. We built the chronology one line at a time. Replica order. Payment date. Approximate delivery. Then the earliest public resale image from Brent's business. For the anniversary ring, the copy had been ordered weeks before the original appeared in a mixed sale lot. The brooch followed the same pattern. So did the bracelet. Not every item had a clean resale photograph, and I refused to pretend otherwise. But where we had both sides, the order came first. Then the original disappeared. Then Brent's business listed or sold something consistent with it. Kevin tapped the second sequence. She made the replacement before she sold the original. That's what the dates suggest. No, that's what they show. For the pieces we can connect. He looked at me. You're still doing that. Doing what? Leaving room for her. I'm leaving room for facts. Kevin stood and walked to the sink. His reflection appeared faintly in the dark window over the counter. I gave her the key. Yes. I paid for the copies. Yes. I knew she sold some things. Yes. He gripped the edge of the sink. So what exactly am I supposed to call that? I waited. He turned around. Because stupid feels too easy. I folded my arms. You wanted peace in your house. That's not an excuse. No. He nodded once. That hurt him more than if I had shouted. Kevin came back to the table. Show me the money trail again. We opened the household records he had access to, the public sale dates, and the business summaries Brent had already sent. One resale date. Then a deposit into Brent's business. Then, several days later, a transfer into the account, tied to Walsh Lake Holdings. Another sale, another deposit, another transfer. The amounts did not match perfectly because other inventory moved through the same business. But the direction was getting clearer. Kevin traced the entries with a pen. Some of this has to be Mom's jewelry. Some of it probably is. Probably? We still don't know every source inside Brent's deposits. Kevin dropped the pen. You're making me crazy. No. I'm trying to make sure we don't hand Tiffany one weak statement she can tear apart. He sat back. That settled him. For a few minutes, the only sound was paper moving. Then Kevin found an email he had missed. Subject line. Closing schedule updated. He opened it. The message was from a real estate coordinator working with Brent's LLC. Kevin read silently, then aloud. Seller approved accelerated closing. Final funds due within 2 business days. I looked at him. 2 days? He checked the date. Less than that now. The cabin photographs were still open on another tab. Weathered siding, crooked deck, lake beyond the trees, a property built partly from money that had once been Carolyn's jewelry. Kevin stood so fast his chair scraped backward. We call the seller. No. The lender. No. The title company. Not yet. He stared at me. Dad, if they close, The money becomes a cabin. I know. Then why are we sitting here? Because you don't stop a real estate closing by calling strangers and saying your wife lied to you. Kevin paced once across the room. So what do? We take what we can prove to somebody who knows how to use it. A lawyer. Yes. He stopped. You already have one? No. That answer surprised him. Then who? I know the attorney who handled Carolyn's probate. She knows the ownership history. I can call her office and ask whether she handles this kind of dispute or can refer us. Kevin checked the closing email again. We don't have time to shop around. We have enough time not to make it worse. The probate attorney had never promised miracles during Carolyn's estate, and that was one reason I trusted her. Every answer came with a condition, a document, or a warning about what still had to be proved. I wanted that same caution now. Not somebody who would tell me what I wanted to hear, but somebody who could tell me what the records actually allowed us to do. My phone rang. Tiffany. Kevin looked at the screen. Answer it. I did. Tiffany. Her voice was controlled. Kevin isn't answering me. He's here. Put him on. Kevin shook his head. I said, he can call you when he wants. This is still my marriage, Mark. Yes. And you're sitting there feeding him half a story. I looked at the order packet. Which half? A pause. Then Tiffany said, You found the card. Kevin's head came up. That mattered. I asked, How did you know? Because I know what you've been digging through. You knew Kevin's card paid for the replicas. Of course I knew. He agreed to it. Kevin stepped closer. Put it on, speaker. I did, he said. I agreed to travel copies. Tiffany answered immediately. That's what they were. You put them in Mom's jewelry box. Another pause. So? Kevin's face hardened. So I thought the originals were still there. You never asked. That sentence hung between us, Kevin said. You're blaming me for believing you? I'm saying you were part of the decisions when it was convenient, and now you want to act shocked. His fingers closed around the back of the chair. Did you order the copies before you sold the originals? Tiffany did not answer. Kevin repeated it. Did you? Her voice turned colder. You two have already decided what every date means. Then the call ended. Kevin stared at the phone. She knows. Knows what? That the dates line up. I looked at the closing email again. Maybe. Or maybe she only knew we had the packet. Either way, one thing had changed. We were no longer chasing what had happened months ago at our own pace. There was a deadline now. I gathered the order records, appraisal photographs, resale listings, Kevin's banking documents, and the LLC papers into one folder. Kevin watched me. What are you doing? Calling the probate attorney. And then? I picked up the closing notice. Then we stopped chasing what Tiffany already sold. Kevin looked toward the cabin photograph on the laptop. I closed it. We stop what she's about to buy. For the first time, Kevin didn't argue with me. I can't stop a closing because you're angry. That was the first thing Margaret Sloan said after I put the folder on her conference table. She had handled Carolyn's probate, which was why I called her first. Margaret was in her late 50s, wore reading glasses on a thin chain, and had the habit of tapping one fingernail against a page when something mattered. The office smelled like copier paper and burnt coffee. Kevin sat beside me. I'm not asking you to stop it because I'm angry, I said. Margaret opened the folder. Good. She read in silence. Carolyn's probate records, the appraisal photographs, Arthur Bell's comparison, the reproduction order packet, Kevin's card statements, Brent's resale summaries, the LLC paperwork, the closing notice. Every few pages, Margaret asked a question. Who owns the jewelry now? I do. Probate complete? Yes. Any written permission allowing Tiffany to sell it? No. She looked at Kevin. Did you have authority from your father to dispose of the jewelry? No. Did you tell your wife she could? Kevin rubbed his thumb against the edge of the table. I told her Mom would have wanted some things used. I knew later she sold one or two things. I never told her she could sell 7 originals or replace them with copies. Margaret wrote that down. Then she reached the replica orders. These charges are on your card? Yes. Your wife's explanation at the time? Travel copies. She said the originals would stay safe. Margaret tapped the page once. And these order dates come before the resale dates? For the pieces we can connect, I said. She looked at me over her glasses. Keep saying it that way. Kevin leaned forward. Can we stop the cabin? Margaret closed the folder. I don't know yet. His chair creaked. We have less than 2 days. That doesn't change what I can promise. She pulled the LLC document closer. Who is borrowing? Walsh Lake Holdings, Kevin said. Who controls it? Brent. Are you a member? No. Do you claim the $10,000 you transferred was misrepresented to you? Kevin hesitated. Tiffany told me I was investing in something we'd share. I didn't know I wasn't getting ownership. Margaret nodded. That may matter, but your $10,000 alone is different from Mark's jewelry proceeds. We need to separate those issues, I asked. What can be done today? Margaret picked up the phone. I can send a written notice to Brent and Tiffany identifying the ownership dispute and demanding preservation of records. I can also notify the parties handling the real estate transaction that funds connected to the closing are subject to a documented dispute. Kevin said, so they have to stop? No. That answer came fast. Margaret continued. A seller, lender, or title company may decide they need clarification before proceeding. They may not. I'm not getting a court order this afternoon. What about the lender? If there is one, source of funds questions can matter. So can inconsistent ownership representations. But we need to be precise. She looked at Kevin. If you dispute representations connected to money taken from your joint account, you say exactly that. You do not claim fraud you cannot prove. Kevin nodded. Margaret looked at me. And you do not tell anyone $30,000 of stolen jewelry funded the cabin, unless you can trace $30,000. I can't. Good. Then don't. She made 3 calls. I heard only her side. Measured words. Documented ownership dispute. Questions concerning source of funds. Request to preserve records. No accusation she could not support. By the time we left, my shirt stuck to my back despite the cold office. Nothing had stopped. Nothing had been won. Kevin checked his phone before we reached the parking lot. No update. Give it time. We don't have time. I know. We ate sandwiches from a deli across the street because neither of us wanted to drive away from our phones. Kevin took 2 bites and wrapped the rest back in paper. Mine tasted like mustard and nothing else. Every buzz from another table made both of us look down at our screens. That afternoon, Brent called me. Not Kevin. Me. What the hell did you do? I put the phone on speaker so Kevin could hear. I hired counsel. You contacted my closing people. My lawyer sent notice of a dispute. You're trying to kill a legitimate deal. If the deal is legitimate, answer the questions. Brent's breath came hard through the phone. You have no idea how resale works. Then explain the jewelry. I already did. No. You said Tiffany called it family property. That's what she told me. Did you know I owned it? Silence. Then Brent said, You're going to regret dragging everybody into this. Kevin stepped closer to the phone. Did you know, Brent? Another pause. Kev, don't let your dad turn you against your wife. Kevin's face tightened. That wasn't the question. The line went dead. I looked at my son. He gave one short laugh. Runs in the family now. What? Not answering the question. Near 5, Margaret called. The title company has requested additional documentation from Brent's side before they will release final funds. Kevin stood up. So it stopped? Delayed, Margaret said. Do not turn delayed into stopped. She explained that the lender had also asked for clarification regarding source of funds and the ownership structure of the LLC. Brent can still satisfy them, she said, if he has clean documentation. Kevin looked at me. And if he doesn't? Margaret's voice stayed even. Then the transaction gets harder. The next morning, Tiffany came to my house. She knocked. I opened the door but did not invite her in. Her perfume drifted through the screen. "You got what you wanted," she said. "What did I want?" Brent's closing is frozen. Delayed. Her eyes narrowed. "You sound like your lawyer." She's careful. "You're enjoying this." I didn't answer. Tiffany looked past me into the hall. "I can get your necklace back. I can pay you for the other pieces. You already had the necklace sold." I said, "I can fix this." "How?" "Money." The word came out flat. She continued. "We settle it inside the family. You stop calling businesses. Stop sending letters. Stop involving people who don't need to be involved." "What about the cabin?" "Leave the cabin alone." "Why?" "Because Mia deserves something good out of all this." There it was. Not an ownership document. Not an answer. Mia. I opened the screen door wider but stayed in the doorway. "Don't use my granddaughter to price this." Tiffany's voice dropped. "You want Kevin to leave me over jewelry?" "I want Kevin to decide what he can live with." "You're destroying his family." "No." I looked at her. "You sold mine." For the first time, Tiffany's expression slipped. Then she recovered. "Carolyn is dead, Mark." I said nothing. "She doesn't care who wears any of it." That sentence did something the arguments had not. It simplified the choice. I stepped back. "Goodbye, Tiffany." She stared at me. "You're really going to blow up everybody's life over this?" I closed the door. An hour later, Margaret called again. The seller refused another extension. Kevin was beside me when I put the call on speaker. Margaret continued. "The buyer's side did not satisfy the title and funding questions before the deadline. The seller is terminating the contract and moving on." Kevin sat down. "The cabin's gone? The transaction is." He covered his mouth with one hand. "Not joy. Not exactly. Something looser. Like a knot, finally giving." I thanked Margaret. She stopped me before I hung up. "This is not the end of the dispute." "I know." "Good." After the call, Kevin stayed quiet. Then he asked, "What did Mom write in that bank box?" I looked at him. He had not forgotten. Neither had I. I went upstairs and brought down the photograph of Carolyn's index card. Sapphire pin. "Tiffany." Kevin read the line beneath it. "For her when she stops thinking she has to impress everybody." He sat very still. "She was going to give that to Tiffany?" "Yes." "Does Tiffany know?" "Not yet." Kevin looked toward the front door where his wife had stood that morning. Then, back at the card. "Dad." "What?" "When are you going to tell her?" I folded the photograph once and slipped it back into the folder. "When she can't mistake it for permission." "Carolyn meant that pin for you." Tiffany stopped halfway into my dining room. "Kesh?" Kevin had asked her to come. Not for another family meeting. No audience this time. Just the three of us, the jewelry folder, and the box that had started all of it. The room smelled faintly of coffee and the lemon oil I had used on the table that morning. Outside, a lawnmower droned somewhere down the block. The necklace lay closed beside my right hand. Tiffany looked at the photograph I had placed on the table. "Sapphire pin," she read. Then her eyes moved to Carolyn's handwriting beneath it. "For Tiffany, when she stops thinking she has to impress everybody." Her fingers rested on the back of the chair. "She wrote that?" "Yes." "When?" "Before she died." Tiffany sat down. For once, she didn't have an answer ready. Kevin stood near the window instead of taking a chair. I slid another page across the table. The appraisal photograph. Oval blue center stone. Small diamond border. Repaired clasp. Then the archived resale image from Brent's business. Tiffany looked at both. Her mouth opened slightly. "That's not clear enough to prove it's the same pin." "By itself?" "No." I placed the transaction chronology beside it. The replica order came first. Then the original disappeared. Then Brent's business listed a pin consistent with Carolyn's. The dates line up with the other pieces we can connect. Tiffany looked at Kevin. He didn't move. She turned back to me. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying this was one of the earliest pieces you sold." Her eyes dropped to Carolyn's card again. A long time passed. Then she said, If she wanted me to have it, then I didn't steal that one. There it was. Exactly why I had waited. I leaned back. No. Tiffany's face tightened. No what? Carolyn's note was not a will. She never gave you the pin. After probate, it belonged to me. But she wanted me to have it. Yes. Then what difference does it make? All the difference. Kevin finally spoke. Because you didn't know. Tiffany looked at him. His voice stayed low. You didn't take something Mom gave you. You took something you thought Dad wouldn't notice. Her jaw shifted. That's not fair. Kevin laughed once, without humor. Fair? I opened the evidence folder. Margaret had helped organize what we could actually prove. Carolyn's ownership records, probate documents, Arthur Bell's comparisons, the safe deposit photographs and repair records, replica order dates, Kevin's card payments, Brent's public listings and business summaries, the money trail that could be connected. Not every piece, not every dollar. Enough, I said. Margaret sent the formal demand yesterday. Tiffany looked at me sharply. For what? For the pieces and proceeds we can document. You're suing me? I'm giving you the chance to settle what can be proved without pretending the rest never happened. Her eyes moved to Kevin. You knew about this? Yes. You let him do it? Kevin's hands dropped to his sides. I'm done pretending I didn't help create this mess. Tiffany stared at him. I said you didn't know what I was doing. I knew enough to ask questions. I didn't. He looked toward the jewelry box. I gave you the key. I paid for the copies. I knew you sold one or two things and decided not to look harder. Tiffany's voice softened. Kevin. No. He shook his head. I kept choosing the easier conversation. She stood. So that's it? You two sit here and decide I'm the only bad person? I said, no. That stopped her. Kevin has responsibility. He nodded. So does Brent, where the records support it. Tiffany looked at me. And you? I thought about that. My mistake was thinking access and trust were the same thing. She gave a bitter smile. That's convenient. Maybe. I reached for the necklace. But I didn't sell yours. Silence. Kevin walked to the table and placed a house key beside me. Not mine. His. Tiffany looked at it. What is that? I'm staying somewhere else for now. Her face changed. No. I already packed a bag. What about Mia? She's our daughter, not a bargaining chip. You're leaving me because your dad told you to? Kevin's eyes moved toward me, then back to her. He didn't. Then why? Because every time I ask what you did, you tell me what I allowed. Tiffany's lips pressed together. Kevin continued. I'm responsible for what I allowed. You're responsible for what you chose. She stared at him for a long time. Then she picked up her purse. Before leaving, Tiffany looked at Carolyn's card one more time. She really wrote that for me? Yes. Her fingers tightened around the purse strap. I answered the question she hadn't asked. No, I'm not giving you the pin. She turned toward me. You don't even have it. No. That was the point. The piece Carolyn once wanted her to have was gone. Maybe forever. Tiffany left without another word. Over the next several weeks, the practical consequences arrived, one at a time. Kevin moved into a furnished apartment near his job. Mia stayed with both parents, according to arrangements they worked out while the separation began. Nobody filed for instant divorce. Nobody dragged her into the jewelry dispute. Margaret kept the civil matter narrow. Where we had records, we pressed. Where we didn't invent certainty. A buyer who still had one bracelet agreed to sell it back after Margaret documented the ownership dispute. Another piece had already changed hands twice and disappeared beyond anything we could reasonably trace. The sapphire pin never came back. Neither did Carolyn's small gold cross. Those empty spaces stayed empty. One afternoon, Arthur Bell called about the anniversary ring. The original had surfaced with a reseller who wanted documentation before doing anything. Arthur compared the repair mark against his old file and confirmed the match. I paid to recover it rather than wait for another fight over possession. When I held it again, the flattened nick was exactly where Carolyn's thumb used to find it. That small flaw mattered more than the shine. I also stopped lending out what was mine. Kevin returned the fishing boat keys. The travel trailer reservation for Labor Day disappeared from my calendar. Tiffany sent one message. "You're punishing Mia too." I answered with one sentence. "Mia is welcome here anytime." I did not give the trailer back. Months passed before the financial side settled. Not days, months. By then, Brent's cabin deal was long dead. Margaret negotiated a settlement based on the jewelry transactions we could support with records. Tiffany and Brent each took responsibility for documented portions tied to their actions. It did not make me whole. Settlements rarely do. Tiffany had to cut expenses hard. The vacation was already gone. The cabin was gone. The credit cards did not disappear just because the plan had. Kevin stayed separated. He never asked me whether he should file for divorce. I never told him. That choice belonged to him. One Saturday in early winter, he came over with Mia. She ran upstairs, looking for an old board game Carolyn used to keep in the hall closet. Kevin stood beside me in the bedroom while I opened the jewelry box. Some pieces were back. The anniversary ring, the bracelet, the necklace. Others were not. I had removed the replicas and stored them separately with the records. Kevin touched the empty space where the sapphire pin would have rested. "Still nothing?" "No." He nodded. Then he looked at the necklace. "You keeping all of this here?" "For now." "What about Mom's notes?" "I'm keeping those too." He gave a small nod. Downstairs, Mia called for us. Kevin headed toward the door. I stayed behind for one more second. The jewelry box no longer looked full. That was honest. Carolyn was gone. Some of what she left was gone too. No settlement fixed that. But the key Tiffany once used no longer opened my house. The boat title still had my name on it. The trailer was still mine. And the things in that box would go where I decided they went. When I decided, because love did not turn ownership into permission, and family did not mean taking first and explaining later. From downstairs, Mia called again. I closed the lid. The sapphire pin's place remained empty. So did the place where Tiffany used to think a key meant everything inside already belonged to her. What this story leaves you with is not a lesson about jewelry. It is a lesson about permission, trust, and the danger of allowing family relationships to erase boundaries that should never have disappeared in the first place. You can love your children, welcome their spouses, lend them your property, and help them through difficult seasons without surrendering your right to decide what happens to the things you own. A house key is access. It is not ownership. A generous history is not permanent consent. And silence after the first small violation should never be interpreted as permission for the next one. You also learn why facts matter when betrayal happens inside a family. Anger may tell you that something is wrong, but anger alone cannot establish what happened. Mark did not win by making the loudest accusation. He compared records, separated what he suspected from what he could prove, followed dates, documented ownership, and let the evidence determine how far he could responsibly go. That distinction matters in real life. When money, inheritance, property, or sentimental possessions become disputed, preserving receipts, photographs, account records, appraisals, messages, and legal documents can protect you far better than an argument around a dinner table. There is another lesson in Kevin's role. You do not have to be the person committing the betrayal to help create the conditions that allow it. Sometimes, you see one questionable decision and choose not to ask the next question because the answer could make your home uncomfortable. Sometimes you give someone access because challenging them feels harder than trusting them. That avoidance can become expensive. Kevin eventually accepted his responsibility without pretending it was identical to Tiffany's. That is important. Accountability does not require everyone to carry the same blame. It requires each person to own the choices that were actually theirs. And then, there is Carolyn's sapphire pin. She had once imagined giving it to Tiffany, yet that intention did not excuse Tiffany's actions. The difference was consent. A gift means something because the owner chooses to give it. Taking the same object before that choice is made turns generosity into entitlement. You cannot claim someone's kindness in advance. Perhaps the hardest lesson is that justice does not always restore everything. Some pieces returned. Others did not. The family did not simply return to what it had been before. Consequences took time, and the resolution was imperfect. But protecting yourself does not become pointless merely because you cannot recover every loss. Sometimes the meaningful victory is stopping the next violation, recovering what can be recovered, refusing to finance further entitlement, and making your boundaries unmistakable. If someone you loved treated your possessions as though your generosity made them theirs, how long would you remain silent? Would you confront them after the first violation? Or would you worry about being accused of breaking up the family? And if you discovered that someone close to you had been quietly replacing trust with entitlement, what would matter more to you? Recovering the money, recovering the objects, or finally hearing them take responsibility? Family should make respect more important, not less. You can forgive someone without restoring unlimited access. You can love someone while saying no. And when something belongs to you, the final decision about whether to lend it, sell it, keep it, or give it away should remain exactly where it began, with you.